I took a big swig of that just then. It's really strong.
Yeah, it is, mate. Yeah, I'll do that.
Ooh,
do you want to take a minute? You're right.
Yeah,
that's a 46%er, dude.
Oh, don't know why I did that.
Yeah.
I didn't realise there was that much left in the bottom.
Yeah.
Thought there's only a little bit left. I'll just polish that off. Oh my God.
Professional. This week on Whiskey and Things, I talk to American music photographer Jered Scott.
And all the way from Dublin, we review the Teeling small batch Irish whiskey.
And as always, you can keep up to date on all our shenanigans on those social media platforms at Whiskey and Things Podcast on Instagram and at Whiskey and Things on Facebook and Twitter. Remember to take that E, screw it up in the ball and throw it away. We don't need it. You don't need it.
And please, if you're feeling generous and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to click the subscribe button or leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform provider, thingamajig, whatever they are.
Nailed it.
Why not? Let's go with that.
You're listening to the Whiskey and Things podcast with Dave Giles and Nick Kent.
Welcome to Whiskey and Things, episode 9.
Correct. I am Nick Kent.
Wow. I am Dave Giles, and thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome.
Nick, I got a few notes on last week. Just get us started, get us going.
Get us on the treadmill. Give us a warm up.
Mainly it's about Lagavulin.
Lagavulin.
First thing, I'd like to apologise for the fact that I pronounced Lagavulin 17 different ways during the episode.
It was an education, mate.
I still don't know which one is the correct way of doing it, but, you know.
As long as you get the whiskey you order, then it's fine. Whatever.
Exactly. So a few comments. Dan Cox messaged to tell me a story about him and Lagavulin.
Oh,
Dan Cox is a guitar player. And a very, very good guitar player at that.
Decent bass player too, I think.
And one night he got so drunk on Lagavulin that the next morning he quit his day job to become a full-time musician. So Lagavulin is the reason that he is now a musician. He said it was such an inspirational moment drinking that much good whiskey that he decided he had to become a musician.
Hang on, did he resign or was he fired from his job from being so hungover?
He resigned.
He resigned. I
woke up in the morning and had a clarity. He had a clarity of mind that made him go, I know what I need to do. I need to quit my job and make music my full-time
Hang on.
career.
Hey, he's doing all right for himself.
He is doing all right. Nice one, Dan. I just want to give you a shout out as well, because you said, and I don't think you made the final edit, but you said last week that if you leave your glass after you've had a Lagavulin and you leave it for a day and you come back to the glass, it will smell delightful. And I laughed at you. I thought that's not very good. I don't believe that at all. So I did it. I decided to test this little theory. I left my Glencairn with the last remaining drips around the glass, and the next day I picked it up and the smell was delightful. It was the most caramelly, gorgeous smell. Annoyingly, I was hoping it would last forever, and I went back a week later and smelt today, and it's still slightly there, but not fully there.
Okay. Firstly, it works with all whiskies.
So now I'm going to do this every day. The next day, I'm going to go back and smell what's left in the glass.
But secondly, you can wash up after a day, mate. You know.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Fortunately, I have two Glencairn, so it was an experiment to see how long that smell would last. Because after we had that discussion about Nick Offerman as well, and how he was trying to get the scent of Lagavulin products. I want the scent of Lagavulin in a glass after a day in a bottle, because that is a delightful smell. I would like to smell like that all the time.
Yeah, enjoy that.
And one other thing. Now, last week we featured Pete Jeffrey, who very kindly sent in some tasting notes on Lagavulin. The first person to send us some tasting notes. Now, he didn't realise that was going to be in the show, and before the show aired, he happened to go on to our Facebook and leave a 5-star review, in which he said, "It's a really well put together podcast, which nicely balances whiskey and things. I came for the whiskey, I stayed for the things." And I just thought that was really nice. The fact that he didn't know he was going to be in the show. So thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
And thank you again for your notes last week.
Yeah, I hope I did them justice.
So that's what I've got from last week. Thanks to everyone who listened.
Thank you, everyone who is tuning in.
Should we crack on with this week's Whiskey, Nick?
Let's do it.
Irish whiskey. Sure, it's liquid sunshine.
This week's whiskey.
We're going to Dublin.
We're going to Dublin, and we're going to try the Teeling small batch Irish whiskey.
Yeah, we are.
Have I pronounced that right?
Teeling. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I could get that wrong.
Teeing. It's a very new company, this. They started in 2015, this version of Teeling whiskey, by two brothers, Jack and Stephen Teeling. They do have a history of making whiskey. They had I think their granddad had a small distillery like 100 years ago or something like that. They built a brand new distillery in the middle of Dublin, and it's the first new distillery in Dublin for over 125 years, which is interesting.
Wow.
I think.
Well, I did some research on this myself.
Yeah? Hit me.
So it's in what they call the Golden Triangle region of Dublin, which is the historic distilling district of the city.
Yes.
So they've gone right back to where they've not just opened a distillery in Dublin, they've gone to the heart of where that's always happened.
Yeah.
Which I like, almost like a nod to the history of the whiskey making traditions of Irish whiskey. And yeah, going back to these brothers, apparently there has been whiskey, according to the website, there has been whiskey making and entrepreneurship that has been in the Teeling genes as far back as 1782. And Walter Teeling set up a small craft distillery on Marrowbone Lane.
There you go.
All the way back then. But yeah, and that new distillery they've set up is just around the corner from where that was.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Oh yeah, because you sent me a link this week because they actually do a virtual tour around the distillery.
Well, they normally you can book a tour to go in normal times, but obviously because everything's closed, they've done a virtual tour, which is really great. And I had a look. Did you have a look?
I went around the whole thing. I did the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought you would.
I started off in the gift shop, of course. And then went all the way around. You go past the three. They've got three beautiful big copper pot stills in there. You can walk throughout, and as you walk around, you can click on little videos and like hear some more about it. It's really interesting. Really recommend going on there.
Yeah, so we'll put the link in the doobity doo.
In the doobity doo.
And we'll share that on social media as well. So Nick, from the smell of this, I'm getting a caramelly.
Is that
thing?
You have washed that glass, right? That's not your old
this is a different one.
glass.
This is a different glass. I promise. Definitely a chocolatey, caramelly smell.
Getting chocolate.
I didn't get that at first, but as it stayed in the glass for 10 minutes, I'm getting that a little bit.
Okay.
And also, I think it's on the eyes. It's a lot paler than a lot of other whiskies we've done so far. It's a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Are you agreeing with me on that one?
I am agreeing with you on that. It's more like a straw, a light straw. On the nose, for me, I've been trying to pick out the because this is aged in ex-bourbon casks. Again, classic.
Yeah.
Irish
Classic
whiskey
Irish
style.
whiskey.
But they finish this off in rum barrels. So there will be a sweetness in there. But just think of this at the moment. As you're sniffing.
I'm sniffing.
White wine.
Oh, yes. I am getting that.
Isn't it?
Oh, wow.
It smells like white wine. There's a definite dried fruit raisin vibe to it, but white wine for me.
There is definitely a white wine thing in there. I'm getting my nose right in. The tip's going right in, Nick. It's quite strong, this.
It is.
46%,
it's
isn't
46, yeah, because they didn't want to chill filter it. If they wanted to go down to 40%, that's one of the processes they'd need to do. But they think it takes out a lot of flavour.
I tell you what, that is delightful.
It's lovely, isn't it? Good finish.
That is so nice. It tingles your tongue because it's obviously a bit stronger. There's a nice tingle on the tongue.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice sensation.
And as long as you don't just neck it, you won't get all that alcohol ruining it as well.
This doesn't taste like most Irish whiskies.
It may be the rum.
It's there a little bit, but there's definitely a twist on it, isn't it? It's definitely a different kind of flavour than most of the Irish ones.
There is a spice to it. There is a spice
spice. There's definitely a spice to it. I wonder if it's because, again, I found this out on the website, the master distiller is an American guy.
Oh, okay.
So he was a guy that was doing bourbon and married an Irish woman, moved over to Dublin and started doing this. So he has a background in a different kind of whiskey making.
Perhaps, yeah.
So he would have brought some different flavour or different ideas to the table. It is strong. I am noticing the strength of this.
It is nice.
Part of me thinks this should be watered down, just to help bring out the flavours. Like a bit of ice in this might do it a favour. But also,
I would put ice in it. I'd do a little drop of water. Because if you...
Water rather than ice?
Yeah, because once you start adding ice, it affects your tongue. Your tongue tastes things better when at room temperature. Once you start adding ice. It's like, when you have a slushie, and after the first few sips, you can't taste it anymore because you've lost all the sensation in your tongue. But a bit of water will bring out flavours.
But what I found was interesting on their website, you know how when I spoke to Charlotte Campbell, we were talking about cocktails, and it started a whole thing about whiskey cocktails. Mm-hmm. One of the main parts of the Teeling website is they have a cocktail section.
Yeah, they're pushing the cocktails in there, yeah.
They're really pushing the cocktails, and you can see why, with a whiskey like this, it does have so much flavour, you could see why they would want you to drink this as part of a cocktail. They had a blood orange whiskey smash, tropical Teeling, apple of my eye, that just to name a few. They had about 7 or 8 different cocktails on there, and I thought, that's a nice touch. It's a very clever touch to try and bring more people to the table, especially with a whiskey that has sweetness like this, and one that I think, because it is strong, will benefit from being watered down to bring out more of the flavours.
No, I'm looking. There's some good stuff.
There is some really good stuff. So definitely, I mean, next time I need to buy a bottle, this I think is going to be high on my list of whiskies to have on my collection, because this is really nice.
It is really nice.
I really enjoy this. But I feel like there's so much you could do with it as well. It's definitely got a bit of fruitcake in there as well.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Are you getting that? There's definitely that fruity cake.
There's that saurine.
Hannah Jones will be pleased. Anyway, we will hear more about this whiskey from the Whisky God later on in the episode.
Just get the things over with.
Everyone's favourite part of the show, Dave.
And my favourite part of the show.
Isn't it? It's the things. So please, Dave,
it is the things.
Tell me, what has been keeping you busy this week?
Well, I took some time to myself this week and decided to try and build some Lego. I had mixed success with this. I built the International Space Station, and that went very well.
Well done.
And then I tried to build a tower for my Saturn V rocket, and spent 48 hours on this. My fingers are still hurting, and it collapsed as I was putting on the final piece on the top. So I'm back to the drawing board on that one. I have to refigure that out. But it was a lot of fun. I haven't had that much fun with Lego in ages.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense, because you didn't answer a lot of texts over that period, right? I noticed. I thought, Dave's a bit quiet at the moment. Why isn't he answering to this, that, and the other? And then, like, later on, the next day, you put up that video, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. He was playing with Lego.
I had a few people mention this to me, that I was a little bit despondent on Sunday and Monday, and it was because of that. I was time lapsing, so my phone was on, and I didn't think it was going to take that long, but then it did take long, and then I got into the mindset of, I've got to do this now, and was getting a little bit frustrated with how long it was taking, but was so determined. I mean, I was up till 6 a.m. on Sunday, and then got 2 hours sleep. Okay. And then the sun was up. I was like, I'll get some sleep. But I couldn't sleep because my head was just going around. What do I need to do? How do I make that work? Because at that point I was struggling with the lift down the central column, which I then nailed, and I was happy about that after a 2-hour break. But yeah, and then the crane killed it. But anyway,
so it fell over.
Yeah, it fell over. But I've actually got something to say that's coming up. So this goes out on Tuesday. On Tuesday the 19th, this will go out. And tomorrow night, Wednesday, if you're listening to this on the Tuesday, tomorrow night, Wednesday, the 20th of May, I'm doing another live stream.
Fantastic.
On Rob Goth Promotions Facebook page. It'll be at 8 p.m. English time. So if you want to tune into that, you can do. Also, Nick, I want to talk about something. Something got delivered to me this week, and I don't know who sent it to me.
It wasn't me.
I got a gift.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a bottle of whiskey, and it's really special. It's called Houston, We've Had a Problem. It's a 13-year-old Apollo 13 50th anniversary special edition single malt scotch from Highland Park.
Oh, my word. Okay.
It's bottle number 169 of 322.
Special, right?
61.3% Highland Park.
Oh.
It's got a special label on it. It's
rocket fuel, mate.
Basically, yeah.
60 what? 61?
So, I mean, yeah.
Okay, that one you want to put a bit of water in.
It's car strength, isn't it? So,
yeah. Oh dear.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. I don't know whether this is one what I'm supposed to drink or whether this is one...
Or just leave it and save it.
Yeah, is it an investment? I had no idea, because I've heard a little bit about whiskey becoming an investment. But whoever got it for me, thank you very much, because that's special. It goes nicely on my space shelf.
Well, it wasn't me.
So, well, thank you whoever did it. So that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to this week?
Well, I've just been kind of chilling out a bit. Because of this week's guest, I was looking through my old band photography books and, a few of my favourite photographers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, well that's very convenient, because we had a comment on Apple Podcasts.
Okay,
you can leave reviews on Apple Podcasts, and I read them. We've had 4 or 5 now, and this one is from someone called PBSNTO. That's their username. So I don't know their real name, but PBSNTO.
Okay,
don't know what that stands for, but good luck to you. And it says this: I love this podcast. Was a subscriber to its original YouTube version. Originally found this through Nick's photography. So if you're looking for a things topic, that would be a good one. Thanks for the podcast.
Well, PMTODW, that is your real name.
I mean, your parents were cruel, mate. Cruel. That's your first name.
Well, let us know what that actually means. But no, you're in for a treat then this week, because
go on.
This week we have a rather special guest. I want to take you back to a past life, listeners. I want to take you back to the late 2000s, when Whiskey and Things was but an itch in the Whisky God's ballsack. Dave Giles was killing it with his band, The Rileys. And Nick Kent was young, suntanned and talented, touring the world with punk pop power trio Tat. It was around that time I met a guy called Jered Scott, who's a concert photographer, an all-round nice guy, right? We were touring the US and Canada with mXPX and Lagwagon in 2008, and Jered joined us, because he was good friends with mXPX, to shoot them on the tour. And we've been good friends ever since. A little bit of background on Jered. He used to work a lot with Alternative Press, which is kind of the US version of Enemy, Krang. It was like their alternative music publication out there. He shot many, many huge bands in his time, such as No Doubt, Green Day, Blink-182, Weezer, Against Me, Paramore.
Wow.
mXPX, who he's good friends with. We'll go into a bit of their relationship with those guys later on as well. Yeah. Full
disclosure, I don't know who mXPX are, but because I knew this was coming up, I did some research, and they are the archetypal, stereotypical West Coast pop punk band.
They're great.
They are amazing, but they've been around for years, and I'd not heard of them. So
they started in their teens, and they're still going.
You mentioned them last week, so I made sure I checked them out, and they're really great.
Yeah, it's great.
I enjoyed going through some of their stuff this week.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you weren't doing much photography when you met Jered?
Bits and pieces.
Or were you starting to get into it around the same time?
I was starting. Just before. Like around 2006 when I first went out there, I took a 35mm film camera and I was shooting the bands. And then I'd have to wait 2 months to get my film developed when I got back to actually see the pictures I'd taken. It was like a different time.
The old days.
I used to shoot 4 bands with 1 roll of 35mm film. It's not like you can just blast a load of pictures now. I had to actually work hard on it. So just for the listeners' benefit, he does talk about mXPX a bit in this section. And I just want to bring up that he talks about a guy called Yuri. Yuri was the drummer in mXPX who left the band for a few years before returning about 3 years later. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And I hope you enjoy the first section of my interview with Jered Scott. Jered, how are you?
Nick, this is so weird. Dude, how long has it been since we've held one another?
Since we've embraced.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Sound City shoot, was it?
I think that might have been the last time.
That was about 2011.
Good God.
I know. It's been too long. Let's start somewhere. Do you have a shoot or a show which really sticks in your mind as a as a highlight for you? You've shot some big names.
Yeah. Jeez.
Which one where you walked away from the show and you're like, yes, that was it?
I've had a few of those. I got to shoot Blink-182's tour rehearsal when they got back together in 2009.
Wow. Yeah, because you took some portraits of Mark Hoppus, didn't you?
Yeah. So through Alternative Press, I did a feature with him, and then he liked hanging out with me and my friend Megan, who assisted on that, and she's also a photographer, and he just kind of kept hanging out with us, and we did a few things, and I shot another band that he was working with in the studio, so I got to see him a few more times. And then they had a secret show that I shot for Alternative Press, and that was another touch point, getting to see each other. But that summer, as they were getting ready to go back on that big tour, their merch company had this idea that they wanted to make 50 unique old school punk rock show flyer t-shirts.
Yeah.
One per show. And so they needed all these new photos, but they didn't have anything. They only had that secret show where they played 3 songs. Yeah. And so Mark got me paid to give them photos. And then at the end of the summer, they hit me up and they were like, we don't have enough photos. Can you come shoot tour rehearsal? And I was like, yeah, that'd be amazing. So I spent the afternoon at the LA Forum just shooting them as they rehearsed. And then they took a little break, and then they played their set that night for 1,000 guests that they personally invited.
Oh, wow.
I remember I saw Chad from Newfound and different people like that, just hanging, walking around on the floor, and stuff. And so I got to shoot that part of the show too. But that was another one of those, this is one of the first bands I remember listening to, and I saw them in high school, and they were huge. I mean, them and Green Day, I feel are 2 of the most iconic bands in punk rock because of the level they've hit. And the fact that I got to do work with them was really cool. And it was fun. What year was this? 2010, maybe? Yuri quit mXPX. And they were going to play one final show with Yuri, and they were going to play Life in General front to back, which they hadn't done before. And I still, in my brain, maintain that I think I planted that seed. I think I was the one that was like, guys, you should play this record in full.
Yeah, let's say it was. I'm sure it was.
And so they played in Vegas, and me and 2 of my buddies drove out, and I shot that show. And at the time, again, we all thought, this is it. Yuri's done. And the way that I looked at it was, this has been the band, just the 3 of them from the beginning. So mXPX is over. And I was sad. I mean, I'd worked with them for a few years, but they'd been my favorite band since 1996. And so it was a very bittersweet show, but man,
emotional.
Yeah, but the energy, everybody was singing every word of that. And I mean, it was this cool, smallish club inside a hotel, maybe 600 people crammed in there. And like I said, I mean, all of us were just screaming every word, and there was no barricade. It was a really difficult show in a sense to shoot, but I walked away with some of my favorite photos of those guys ever.
So you've known the mXPX guys for a long time. You got a pretty special relationship with them, haven't you?
Yeah, they were one of the first bands that I shot. June of 2007, I think I shot my first mXPX show at a record store. And after that is how I slowly started worming my way into their world. Just through talking to someone working at the show. I went up to him at the record store and said, hey, I took some photos. Who should I contact about getting them? And he gave me Mike's mom's email address. And
amazing.
I sent her photos, and she was like, these are great. Can we put them on our website? And I flipped out. Here's my the band that got me interested and passionate about music. They're going to put my photos on their website. And I had this theory early on where the first time that I did something with a band, it was just straight up, strangers, random pray for the best kind of thing. And then give them photos, blow them away. Like, that's my goal. That way, when they come around a second time, they'll say yes. They'll let me come back.
Yeah.
And that time we'll have a little bit more to talk about because we've done a show together or whatever. And by the third time, my feeling was I'd be friends or in with the band. And that's really what I think, for the most part, how it worked with most bands is it just took like 3 times. And by that third time of doing things, like, I found my rhythm. I found that they were being much more like chummy and comfortable, and they'd forget that I was there, like hanging out in the dressing room. And I think, like, I've always been an observer. I've always noticed, I don't know, subtle things or how people do things. And I watched that early on. I remember being, I'm probably just confusing shows. I was like, I think you guys did a show with them at the Key Club, but I think those are 2 separate shows. They played the Key Club and you guys.
No, we did the Warped Tour kickoff party at the Key Club.
Right. Yeah.
That was a separate one.
So same venue, but my first time there was with them, and there was another photographer that they had worked with before, young guy. He made them feel uncomfortable right away. Like, cause he just kept asking them. He's like, hey, you want to go over there and do this? And hey, do you want to go? You guys, like, he kept interrupting what they were doing to try to like force a photo. And then he like had a bunch of things that he kept asking them to like sign. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to be that person. And so I think that helped me like learn right away, like, oh, there's so many variables to how this stuff works. It's not just about taking a good photo. There's all this other stuff.
It's reading the room.
Yeah. And did like via Warped Tour and stuff like that, did you happen to ever get to know Ethan Luck from Reliant K?
A little bit. Yeah. That was a long time ago. Yeah. No, I remember them. Yeah. So
he was someone that helped me early on because he'd been in a lot of bands and had toured a long time and things like that. And he was just like, he's like, man, it's so much more important that you're a good hang than anything. He's like, because if a band's going to bring you on the road with them and stuff, he's like, you're living together.
So I hope you enjoyed that. You can listen to the second part of that interview later on in the show.
Looking forward to that, mate. I loved it when he was talking about, at the end there, was talking about how important it is to be a good hang.
Yes.
If you want to get on in this industry. Yeah, I mean, when I was in Nashville, I remember talking with Adam and Kevin, who played on my album, and them saying that the thing that they think has got them furthest in their career is the fact that they've made sure they're easy to work with.
Yeah. No, it is a massive deal. Yeah.
Probably why I haven't done too much in my life.
Well, no, David. What's the thing with like in theatre as well? It's the same kind of thing. My friend Rob Wicks, he'd give me gigs, which there are a lot of bass players out there who are a lot more well qualified for that. But we can hang out, and I can do the job, and I learn to do the job as well as anyone else. And
when you know you're going to be spending 6 months with someone in a tight knit space, that's just as important as how.
Yeah. Obviously, I can play bass, everyone, and I do the job very well, but I'd like to say, but...
Yeah, of course. But you're putting yourself in the frame by being easy to get on with as well.
Yeah, apparently.
Cool. Well, I look forward to hearing more from Jered later on in the show. Whiskey! So, Nick, now it's time for everyone's favourite part of the show, apparently.
Is it?
Apparently.
I thought the things was everyone's part of the show.
Well, after last week's Singing God, I think he's got himself some new fans.
I reckon the charity single's on the cards. You know that? You know what I do?
That would be amazing.
Earlier on, I sent you a little video, didn't I? I tried putting some chords behind his
ramblings.
Behind his ramblings. You know what it reminded me of?
No.
Like William Shatner's music.
Oh my God. Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Anyway.
That a charity single is definitely on the cards. We've got to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll be the charity. Anyway, we heard from Kate Sharp, who
hello
she's all the way over the other side of the Atlantic. She's in Massachusetts, and she said that episode 8 was hands down her favourite Whisky God visit so far.
Oh dear!
And we've learned a handy new trick. When he gets a bit grumpy, just play him a bit of Jess Muse. And his mood will turn right round and we'll even get a bit of a sing-along.
Well.
Do you know what? I think that, we do now know. We do now know exactly what we need to do. He now follows only 2 pages on Twitter.
2?
And Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, he follows the podcast, amazingly. So. Even though he always slags us off.
Yeah.
And he follows Jess Muse. So, true to form, he knows what he likes.
He knows what he likes, doesn't he?
Knows what he likes. So, shall we see if he's around?
Shall we see?
Kid Millefulture, gentlemen.
Sounds like an attempt to speak in Irish.
How many languages do you know, God?
Whisky God is an omniglot. Imbeciles.
Well, that makes sense. Hey, God, a lot of people have been asking about your origin story. We've heard some different rumours and we're a bit confused, wondering if you could clarify a few things for us, if that's all right. I heard a story that whilst touring the Jim Beam distillery in Kentucky, there was a man named Jonathan, and he tripped and he fell into a still. And unfortunately, that was the end of Jonathan. But apparently, the God was born.
Really?
That's ludicrous, but true.
Oh, okay. Well, I heard something else.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I heard that the God was the result of a genetic blending experiment by Johnny Walker.
Oh.
Trying to produce their new pink edition.
Wow.
And then, and they actually based the movie Twins on his birth.
No.
Meaning somewhere there's the complete opposite of him.
What?
There's twins out there somewhere. Maybe someone who can't even pronounce the word bourbon. You never know. How is that true?
Is it true, God?
Yes, that is true.
They can't all be true. Well, I don't know what to think.
Anything is possible.
We're never going to get to the bottom of this, but what we might get to the bottom of is the Whisky God's opinion of the Teeling small batch Irish whiskey.
Teeling small batch Irish whiskey. On the eyes, notice the beautiful honey amber. Perhaps a pale bale of hay. On the nose, you will get malt bathing in a dried apricot and banana. Grain and brown sugar, as grainy as your typical traditional Irish whiskey nosing, leading us to a very welcome aroma indeed. On the palate, syrupy grain, honey, caramel, that illustrious dried fruit from the nose, and banana nut muffin directly on your tongue. If you've never imagined a citrusy vanilla ice cream, then surprise, it's melting on your tongue now in a very juicy manner. Turn that up a notch with some darker notes, and you have a very complex Irish dram. This could have something to do with its finish in a rum cask. On the finish, that banana nut is finishing in your mouth now, leaving you with hints of brown sugar and dried fruit undertones. Overall, Teeling small batch is a very welcome addition to the world of Irish whiskies. What might be proper for a sour cocktail could surprise you as a lone sipper. The non-chilled filtered process and higher proof gives the usual Irish whiskey experience a dark kick and a texture similar to that of, dare I say it, a thick, syrupy, unfiltered bourbon. Smooth as it is, it could do well in a hot toddy if you like ruining a proper whiskey. If you'd like an Irish whiskey that tells a unique story, I suggest giving Teeling small batch Irish whiskey a proper go. Enjoy. Ta-ta.
Well, there we go. Thank you, Whisky God.
Yeah, well, no singing this week. He's gone and he's not left us with a song. That's a shame.
Disappointed.
That is a shame. Maybe next week. Nick, what the hell is a banana and an apricot?
A banana?
I mean, I get insulted about some of the way I pronounce words, but I mean, banana and apricot. Someone needs to go to elocution lessons. The fact I got that word wrong is amazing.
Well,
I think, God needs to learn more about fruit.
Well, it needs to...
And how to pronounce it.
Yeah, obviously that wasn't in any of his origin stories, was it?
Yeah. I mean, maybe he is the twin of someone who can't pronounce the word bourbon. Maybe. Maybe there's some truth in that. Shall we hear some more from Jered?
Yeah, this is a great little segment, this. Enjoy.
That Whisky God has notions.
When you were getting the photography bug, with your style, how it developed, did you have any particular photographers you admired? Or did it just come naturally? Because you do have a signature look.
Yeah, I mean, because I didn't have that like upbringing in art or photo, and because I never went to, school for it or anything.
You didn't study photography at uni?
Nope.
No.
Yeah. I was studying to be like a youth pastor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely wasn't educated on like the popular, oh, you need to know this person. Oh, this is who this is. It took me years to like start understanding some of that. So at the time, everything that I was like really interested in was all like either contemporaries or my friends. There was a music photographer back then named Ryan Russell, who did a lot of film. While everyone was getting into the digital field, he was still shooting film, and he was working with bands like Paramore and My Chemical Romance and Death Cab for Cutie and stuff like that. And I really liked the look of almost everything that I ever saw him do. Like his black and white stuff just felt like timeless and crispy, and a lot of his like color stuff looked cross-processed and kind of green, and it had like a flavor to it, but then all of his photos just had this depth to them. Stylistically too, like what did I like seeing as I was growing up and like walking into the record store or buying a CD and looking at it, like what kind of images did I like? And just thinking like, I think fans probably like that kind of stuff. Like they want a wild, I was shooting punk rock bands, so they want stuff that's energetic and loud and wild. And
so when did you start touring with bands?
My first real tour experience, like I was out on the road for a few days with mXPX, but my first real tour was the tour we all did in 2008. Oh. Like for me, I'm this green person, not only like to touring, but to the industry and all this stuff. And here I am living on a bus for 3 weeks, and I had to kick a stranger out of a bunk that was supposed to be mine.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We had
I know
van issues.
Yeah, I remember getting in super late and them being like, "So these other guys are staying on our bus. They're in the opening band, and that guy is sleeping in your bunk." And I was like, "That's fine, man. I'll sleep wherever." And you were like, "No, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No, I'm sorry. Like I'm just showing up." And now no,
that was your bunk. That was your bunk, man.
Right, but like all of a sudden, here we are on this like touring or a tour, and for me, I think were there 4 bands or 5 bands? It was you guys. Was it
4.
Only Crime?
Oh yeah,
right?
It's Only Crime, Lagwagon, co-headlining the guys, mXPX, and we were opening up.
Yeah, I didn't really talk to the Only Crime guys at all. I didn't know who their band was, and again, I was super timid.
Yeah.
Same with like the Lagwagon guys. I loved that band growing up, but I didn't know any of them, so I was super just like, I'm going to stay over here. But because you guys were on our bus, I got to know you guys right away, and you guys were all just so like kind and like funny and chummy and all that kind of stuff that for me it was like, oh, these guys are my friends like already.
It was likewise. You were super easy to get on with, super nice. Again, it was just not 9-10 years later, still good buddies.
Oh, longer. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's about 12 years now.
Right. I think friendship had always been an important thing to me. And I'm not looking to make everybody my friend because I know that's not realistic.
Yeah.
if you try to go deep with everybody, you go deep with nobody. And I look for, like, I want less friends that I can invest in and have a deep relationship with and things like that. And so I think that was, I just tried to like let all of that happen naturally as I met bands. And so like on that tour, I mean, you guys, I liked your sound. I liked your guys' charisma on and off stage. I mean, and so for me, I was just like, oh yeah, I just want to hang out with these guys. And then when you guys would come to California or Warped Tours, or when we got to randomly cross paths in Texas, like that was just awesome to me. Like that I just got to see my friends all over the place.
Do you think it's easier or harder now for young photographers to kind of get into the shooting bands and making it a career or part of their career? Because it is hard to make a living from shooting bands.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to be smart about what your plan is. I mean, I think it's maybe a little easier now because it almost feels like every single band needs to be paying someone to go on every tour with them, because social media is the new form of marketing. Of course. And so if you're out on tour and you're not posting stuff, if you're not producing good content, then did you even tour? You're completely right. Almost how it seems. But I mean, that doesn't mean that these bands all have the budget to pay someone a good wage or rate. But again, like when you're starting out and you're fresh out of high school, or like, in your early 20s, like you don't need a ton to live off of. And it is all about connections. Like if you go on tour and you're working with the smaller band on the tour, you might meet people in the higher, bigger band, or someone's manager, and that could open a door. Like, so to me, I would think there's got to be an element of it that's a little easier. I mean, it's still probably super saturated and you're competing against, and I love it. I mean, I love it. When I was a few years in, I was meeting some of these younger guys and they'd be like, oh, I love your stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, you're way past where I am. And they'd be like, no. And like now those guys are like on tour with Billie Eilish. And I'm like, yeah, you should have listened to me those years ago when I said you were way past. But again, it's also, I mean, it should be easier to get in with a band, in my opinion. But then it's all based on like, are you growing? Are you doing something different? Are you easy to be around? Yeah. And it takes some time. Like I knew for 10 years, I knew this photographer, Matty Vogel, through social media. And I mean, he toured with a lot of these bands, All Time Low and Paris and, all that kind of stuff. And then, and he was fantastic. He's always been an amazing photographer, but it was years of him just slugging it out until something hit. And then he started touring with 30 Seconds to Mars. And then that really put him on like another level. Now he's out shooting these arena shows and he's traveling the globe shooting like fashion and adventure photos with Jared Leto.
I was going to say, yeah. And you need to be versatile with that guy in a band.
Yeah. And then from that was able to land himself in the Billie Eilish camp because she didn't have anybody shooting for her. And now he's their photographer.
Yeah, it just takes one little break, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's the perfect dude to be doing it. Like his style is fantastic and he's mellow and chill. Like you don't want some loud, crazy personality out in that world. Like you need to fit in, and stuff like that. So I think that there is possibility, but you gotta be smart. I remember years ago when Adam Almakaya started doing prints and all the bands that he was working with, like I think that was brilliant on his part to charge them little to nothing, but to have them push his prints because those were the bands that kids were buying prints of left and right. And so I'm sure he made way more off print sales than he would have off of a band hiring him to shoot something. And it didn't cost the band anything. They just were posting the content that he was making for them and tagging him and saying, prints available, which I think is brilliant. So I think, it's probably important that there's a partnership between the photographer and the artist or the band they're working with. And I think that there are ways to be lucrative and smart, especially nowadays having platforms like Patreon and stuff like that. It's like, if you are making cool content and if you can educate or inform or something like that, like you could charge people $5 a month to join your Patreon, and you might be able to even just live off of that.
You're listening to the Whiskey and Things podcast.
I really liked what he was talking about there, particularly about style and the partnership between a photographer and an artist.
Yeah.
For example, you and me.
You and me, Dave. What partnership over the years? Yeah,
we got a whole book of photos that you have taken of me, and that was just before I was 30. There's been more since then.
It has, yeah.
But for me as an artist, it's definitely when I know that you're taking my photo, because you've done so many before and I know your work, it's so much easier for me to take direction from you, because I know what the end result would be. Whereas if I have to work with someone else, it's a lot more awkward because you're getting to know each other. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. But also, if anyone would like to buy some prints of me performing, then go on Nick's website, because they do exist.
I might put them up. Yeah, they do exist. I might do a whole one. Yeah, of course.
But,
yeah. And then Dave doesn't have to pay me any money. You're welcome. It's great. So,
but also you've got people like Ben Morse, who's another photographer that we like, who we hopefully get on the show at some point, and he's connected with Frank Turner, and a load of Frank's best photos of stuff that Ben has taken. So you see this quite a lot, and it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yes, you do. You see a lot of photographers, a lot of the iconic, like U2 and Anton Corbijn.
Anton Corbijn, of course, yes.
Metallica and Ross Halfin.
Okay, I don't know that pictures. One, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, a lot of the most iconic Metallica shots are Ross Halfin. Same with U2 and Anton Corbijn, because they developed that style over the years, don't they?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
That was really fun, having a little catch up with Jered. You can watch the whole uncut interview on our Patreon page.
Excellent. And I imagine there's a lot more of his origin story in there.
There's a lot more of the origin story. There's some great tales from the road and the pit. It's about 50 minutes we were talking.
Wow, amazing. Look forward to that.
Yeah, and we go into a bit more about his photography style as well. And we hear as well his work he's doing at the moment with some non-profit organisations, which is also
nice. So that's on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/whiskey and things, whiskey with no E. And how can we find out more about Jered, Nick?
Jered's socials are, firstly, Jered is spelt Jered Scott.
Jered Scott.
Jered Scott. On Instagram and Twitter, he is at Jered Scott. And on Facebook, search for Jered Scott. And if you'd like to check out his whole music portfolio, including some dashing photos of yours truly, log on to jeredscottphoto.com.
Will do.
He's also an amazing wedding photographer as well. There's some great shots on there. And he does all kinds of stuff. Just go check him out. He's fantastic.
I can't believe you're still listening to this podcast. God, you're a trooper.
Who is that? Anyway, carry on.
Well, Nicholas, I've really enjoyed this whiskey, and although we've only got the tiny little small bottles which we've got from the Drinks by the Dram, I think I'm going to have to get myself a bottle of this. Where can you get it from?
Well, I've spotted it in my local Tesco. I'm sure you can get it elsewhere. Yes, so it's quite widely available.
So what whiskey are we doing next week?
Next week, this is exciting, okay? It's number 10 next week. So
number 10?
We are...
coming home.
Well, yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much made halfway between us, Dave. Halfway between Manchester and England and London. We are trying the Cotswolds Distillery single malt whiskey.
Nice.
There we go. Nice. It's an English whiskey. It's our first English whiskey. And I'm looking forward to that. It's another 46%er too.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. We've been doing this, and I've had one little glass, and I definitely am feeling it, which is lovely. We have to mention here that we have seen at least one person who listens to the show has purchased the selection that we have from Drinks by the Dram on Master of Malt. Kate,
hello,
Nick
Kate.
Kent Fan Club founding member, has indeed purchased them all. So we are expecting some tasting notes from Kate in the future episodes.
Yes.
So
Yes,
no pressure,
we are.
Kate. No pressure. But we expect some Whisky God style. And feel free to actually record yourself and send them in. And we may even feature that.
We might do that. If not, we'll read them.
I think that, and anyone else wants to do that as well. If you want to actually record yourself, a little 10 to 15 second clip of you talking about the whiskey, we would love that. Please send it to us. Send us a message and we'll figure out how you can send that to us.
Exciting.
And be part of the show. So I got a callback here, Nick. On YouTube, we had a comment. The podcast goes up on YouTube a couple of days after the other platforms. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a comment from Michaela Lachelle.
Cool name.
I know, right? She's from Australia, and I met her when I was on tour in Australia when we were making the first run of Whiskey and Things on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
I remember you left me for 3 weeks. I remember.
That some of my favourite parts of that whole process was those video clips that you made.
Playing tennis by myself. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, she said that the music of the intro gives her such good memory flashbacks to the video series. One of those music instrumentals that gives you that warm and good vibing feelings. Such great personalities that just seem to bounce off each other perfectly. Love it. Thank you, Michaela.
Oh.
And it's funny you should mention the music because I did this week put up a live version of the song that inspired the whole of this project, Whiskey and Things. It's my song, Whiskey and Wings.
Yeah.
And I put that up on YouTube. It's a live version from when we played it at the Monarch. Nick's in the band. Our friend Dean DiCioso's in the band. Dave Cruzen on drums. Liza singing backing vocals. Dina on the fiddle and Kevin Harland on guitar. Great band,
really good.
Great night. We get some crowd surfing from Max from You Me at 6. It's all Chris is in it. Chris Trevero's in it. It was a wonderful night.
It was a great night.
Perhaps if you'd like to know more about how Nick and I ended up doing Whiskey and Things, you've only got to listen to Whiskey and Wings.
No, good work. It's come out really well. I watched it just before we started recording this, and it's very good. Brought back some great memories for sure. We may have a guest next week. We haven't decided yet, but I'm sure we
haven't
will.
finalised it. We've got two potentially lined up, but we'll find out. Either way, tune in next week where we'll be doing the Cotswolds Distillery single malt. And if you have any thoughts on the Teeling or any other thoughts about the episode, please get in contact. We'd love to hear from you.
Please do.
I've been Dave.
And I've been Nick.
Thanks for listening.
That's new. Nailed it.
It's a callback, mate. It's a callback.